had I known that Werewolves of the Third Reich had been written and directed by the same person who wrote and directed The Curse of Robert, I may have not given it a go, because this person, Andrew Jones, churns out these films at an alarming rate. It's all quantity and very little quality. However, I didn't know that. I have seen it. I can confirm that my suspicions would have been correct. It's just not good, and there's nothing about it that I particularly enjoyed. Now, I kind of liked the concept. I like films that are a little bit ludicrous, as long as they don't mess with Jane Austen, for example. Jane Austen versus the zombies, no. But this one, I'm not the kind of person who'll get offended when somebody takes the Third Reich and makes fun of it, because I think we have to keep the history alive in some way, so we continue to learn from that mistake and don't repeat history. And if the way they're going to do this is with werewolves, fine. Unfortunately, the narrative is just, well, what narrative, I guess, is the main thing. I'll read the description from IMDb anyway, so you can kind of get the gist of what the narrative should be. In Germany, at the height of World War II, a ragtag group of American soldiers discovered Doctor Mengele's, I can't pronounce it, diabolical plan to create an unstoppable army of Nazi werewolves. That sounds incredible. If that's done well, that sounds like a thrill ride. And as I said, I don't personally take offence to this kind of thing. If you do, then obviously not for you, but I don't think the film's particularly for anybody, to be honest. But I thought if this is done right, it could be different. It could be interesting. Creating a physical monster out of a literal monster. There's no real narrative substance to this whatsoever. And I will say the visual quality of the film just in general is pretty good. We have some interesting camera work, nothing too fancy, but nothing bad. The appearance of the werewolves, the teeth are menacing. It's not high budget. In fact, I'll see if I can find what the budget is, but it's not, it doesn't look high budget, but it looks decent enough. The werewolf image is fine. I have no issues with that. The uniforms, the Nazi uniforms, I don't know how historically correct they are. I'm sure somebody will be able to tell me if they had the wrong kind of buttons or the hat was stitched the wrong way. But just generally speaking, you can recognise who they are meant to be quite instantly. And we have a bunch of SS officers, and they all have very similar personalities, and you can tell that this is poking fun at them, as one would expect. But after you kind of get the werewolf transformation, and you have this Nazi werewolf crossover, it's like, well, what's next? What's left? It loses its appeal, or what appeal there was, very, very quickly. Apparently the budget was $300,000 on IMDb. I can't help thinking that giving that to a charity instead would have been a much better idea. But art is art, and as an artist myself, I will always encourage people to create art. I just think that this director needs to chill for a bit and stop churning out so much rubbish. And not that I can say everything they've ever created is rubbish, but The Curse of Robert could have been amazing, and it's cheap and rubbish. Again, I think that one had a pretty big budget, well, a relative budget size. This could have been good if there was a decent plot. It could have been poignant. It could have been trying to tell us a message about Nazis as monsters and how we judge people on their appearance, i.e. the werewolf, whereas Nazis may have looked like the average human, but inside they weren't. It could have been telling this really important message that, yes, has been told time and time again, but it still would have been better. Unfortunately, Werewolves of the Third Reich is the cheesy, cheap gimmick that I was worried it would be. And not for a second would I recommend it.